name?
My name is Lisa.
Lisa. And is this a story about you or your children?
About my son.
Your son, okay.
Yes.
All right. How many children do you have?
I have 2 children. My son is 10 and I have a daughter who's 8.
Okay.
My son's autistic, my daughter is fine.
Okay, well, I think the interesting thing is to establish is when you were pregnant, were you an anti-vaxxer?
No, I didn't question it like many, like yourself. My son was born in 2006, and obviously the whole Dr. Wakefield thing had been in the news, and I did question it. I was wondering whether I could have the 3 separate vaccines which you could pay for. But when I suggested that to my GP and anyone I talked to about it, at the nurse, even at the time when she was doing it, giving the MMR to my son, it was constantly that it was safe and that I was being silly, and it had all been disproved, and so I believed them. So I should say, prior to having the vaccine, my son was born by caesarean section because it was an emergency. And so he didn't, I think his gut flora was, he didn't get the full flora at that time. And then very soon after, I was really wanted to breastfeed, and I had 2 bouts of mastitis, and so he was still very young, a few weeks old, and the doctors gave me antibiotics for that. And both times I was, are you sure this is okay for him to have the antibiotics in the breast milk? And again, reassured that everything's fine. So I believe already at this very young stage, he had, a weak gut flora. And then he was developing normally, reached all his milestones. He spoke really young. I have friends with boys the same age, and everyone commented how young he spoke. And he had a vocabulary of about 100 words. And at 15 months he walked, everything was fine. Then in October 2007, he was 13 months old, he had the MMR. And unlike the other stories I've heard, there wasn't an immediate...
Was it just the MMR?
Prior to that, we live in London, so they have the BCG at like 6 weeks old. Then he had the usual DTaP and all the 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, he had that. Then on that day, he had the MMR, just the MMR.
Only the MMR?
Yes,
right,
I believe so. And I can't say for sure, actually. I should check the red book. But I was just being,
maybe it's a combination of...
Yeah, it might have been.
How old is he?
He's 10 now. So this was in 2007. So I can check that. But I know that was the day that he had that. And there wasn't any immediate illness or anything after that. This was October. By January, however, we went away on a holiday, and we had a photographic session done with him, and he was really unresponsive and acting strange and getting really irritated, and we really noticed that. And that weekend when we were away, he had really bad bout of gastroenteritis, which when we got home, we had to take him to A&E because he was so sick and he was like a skeleton. They observed him, and then we were sent home. He finally stopped vomiting and having diarrhea, and we went home. But his gut never really recovered from that. So I think the previous time from having antibiotics as a baby, then the MMR, and then this. From that moment on, he just started to definitely become less, more in a bubble and less responsive. And he would wake from his daytime nap and he would just scream every day. He would only nap for a very short time, and he would scream really horrendously for about an hour, inconsolable. And I would ask doctors and health visitors, and no one had any answers to what that could be. At this time, now we're 2008, his sister arrives, and he was just inconsolable about her arrival, which at first I thought, he's just jealous and he's put out because this little girl's turned up. But it was unnaturally so. He was clingy, really upset, distraught. And then from that point, he just seemed to deteriorate. He just got more and more in a bubble. He wouldn't answer to his name. His speech, which had been really, really good, just deteriorated. So that by the age of 3, he was completely non-verbal. And now he's 10 and he still is the same. And then just all skills were lost, and it just carried on until now. He's 10. He has always been in mainstream. But he is so behind academically. He has huge sensory issues. He has sensory processing disorder as well. Very fight-flight mode all the time. Very super anxious. But he's always suffered with this really bad gut.
Have you cleared that up now?
Well, now we've worked on that for years. We did the GAPS diet, and we saw a nutritionist, and we did lots of stuff to, he's on a gluten-free, casein-free diet. It's been on that for years. That helped. And going casein-free really helped make him a bit more alert. But he was getting really severe pain and screaming. And so we went to Great Ormond Street when he was 8, and he had the exploratory test done. And they said they couldn't see anything. But he had hyperplasia and inflammatory bowel. But a lot of autistic children have that, and they couldn't explain why, and that was it, and I was sent away.
So basically, they found inflammatory. That's interesting.
Yeah.
She said that. But then they said a lot of autistic children.
Yeah.
So in other words, that's normal because your child's got autism.
Autism, and there was no, there was nothing they could do to help him with the pain, and so that I was sent away. At that point, my friend Dawn, who you've met, who had moved to America, and she is vaccine damaged herself, and she started a program with a doctor called Dr. Yasko out there, which is a epigenetics program. Mm-hmm. So I started. My son had his DNA done, and we started to do using supplements this program. And she, first of all, she saw that he is very highly intoxicated. He has high levels of aluminium, mercury, lead, arsenic, everything. And she could tell. We started to work on the gut, and she found that he actually had Helicobacter pylori, which is like a very prolific gut bacteria, which causes real pain, which was what we would have, why we went to Great Ormond Street a couple of years before. And that would cause the hyperplasia, and we've been working on that, and we've nearly killed that now, and his gut is miles better. And now we're still working on the detoxifying, working on the methylation, so that he can detoxify himself. And that's where we're at. So he's
you've got a daughter?
Yes.
Now what's she had?
She's had the same, because...
All of the same?
Yeah. Because by the time I realised what had happened to him, it was too late. She'd already had her. She's very close. She's only 20 months younger than him. So... but she does have a weak gut, and but other than that, she's fine. I'm lucky, I guess. But she didn't have all the antibiotics as a baby that he had. I don't know if that made a difference. Obviously, boys are more susceptible. I don't know. I try to find these answers. There's no doctors here to get help. I tried to go back to Great Ormond Street to tell them what I'd found.
You need to stay out of Great Ormond Street.
Yeah.
You really need to stay out of all these places.
Well, yeah, I mean...
specialist doctors, even if you have to go to America and find one.
Yeah. Well, I'm doing this program with Dr. Yasko from America, and we are seeing results, but really I need, that's what I'm desperate to try and find a doctor here in London that I can see.
Well, don't settle for the white coats, because they're just going to make your boy sick.
Yeah. So, I have a brilliant homeopath, and we're working at getting all the vaccines out homeopathically. So we've done the program. We're working through that. I'm just trying to strengthen his own methylation, but at the moment, there are improvements. He's not in so much pain, but he's still very distressed. He's actually he was at mainstream school. That hasn't worked out, so he's actually at home with me now for the last month, and I'm trying to get him into school. So it's...
Well, in America, homeschooling's all the thing, and they are bright kids.
Yeah, but I'm not sure I'm cut. It's very stressful. I'm just hoping that with good diet, as you say,
What's your son called?
Sonny.
Periscope, remember Sonny. We're going to write Sonny's name on the bus.
Actually, Dawn has already wrote his name. I don't want him to be
job
doubled up.
He's
He's 2,800 and something, but yeah, Dawn already did that for me. Yeah. So, yes, that's where we're at. But it's just amazing that you guys are doing what you're doing to draw attention to it.
Isn't it?
And that you're not going mad.
It's the same story.
Oh,
we always
exactly.
said it, but coming in and actually hearing it.
I know. I've already seen the film because my friend sent me the DVD, but watching it again and just hearing that everything is just my life and what's happened to us. And the sad thing, the most annoying thing that drives me mad is that it didn't have to, it's awful that it happened to the kids that it happened to, but these children, like my son of that age, it should never have happened because it should have been picked up at the time in 2007. But now, like you say, it's just knowledge of parents knowing that they need to be informed and make that decision.
Well, your
themselves.
story is very different.
Mm.